Beloved Madridistas, welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about the Osasuna match last night, which I think by all accounts was probably our best performance of the year. This was a much, much better performance, mostly on the back of just intensity more than anything tactical, I think. This was also a clinic, an absolute clinic on the part of Vini, the best player in the world, who has just reminded France Football and all of the corrupt journalists that were involved in that sham of an award ceremony that he is the best player in the world. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Now, unfortunately, all of this was eclipsed by the injury to Militao, not just Lucas Vázquez and Rodrigo, but more importantly to Militao. And we have to focus again on the absolutely terrible planning that took place in the offseason ahead of this season, and now we find ourselves in a really tricky situation. So we need to discuss that. But anyway, let's talk about the match. We'll talk about players, and let me give you my thoughts on the injury situation, which is really, really dire at the moment. All right, welcome back. Let's get started. All right, beloved Madridistas, welcome back. All right, let's talk about the match last night. And the difference in my view relative to previous performances was intensity, and it was really, really palpable. There's one anecdote that I wanted to share with you guys, and I heard this, I watched the game at the Bernabeu, then I came back and watched it again here on TV, and the commentator said something I was not aware of, which is that in La Liga, Real Madrid, up to the match yesterday, was the team in La Liga that had run less kilometers in total. And the second team in the Champions League, the second to last in terms of kilometers run. Now, that is a very, very important statistic. It doesn't matter how good you are. Technically, it doesn't matter what your last name or the quality of your players. If you are not willing to run, it is unacceptable to be outworked at this level. That is something that you control. It's easy to control, and you have to play with more intensity. And last night we did, and it was really, really visible. The one thing I noticed a lot was there was just a lot more movement. There was more movement off the ball. The players that had the ball had so many more people to pass to. There were options because there was a lot more movement off the ball. I thought the pressing was much better, much more coordinated. There were about 20 minutes in the second half where I really thought, okay, they're playing very well, very high intensity, everybody pressing simultaneously, recovering the ball very, very quickly. This is just the kind of performance that you expect. And I think in terms of intensity, really very different from previous matches. Now, as I mentioned, this was a clinic by Vini. It was just an absolute clinic. The first goal I thought was spectacular, the way he sort of cut to the outside and put an incredibly powerful shot to the first post. It was very kind of Cristiano-esque, a fantastic finish. The second goal, Asensio, this kid that came out, who nobody had ever heard of. What a pass. This is one of the most beautiful passes to Jude that I've seen in a very long time from a central defender. And it came from a very young kid who was playing his first minutes in the first team. Very impressive. Jude's finish was phenomenal. The third goal, again, Lunin, an incredible pass. This is one of the best goalkeeper assists I've seen in a long time. A beautiful run by Vini and just an extraordinary individual goal by him as well. And then the fourth goal was, Vini in the right place at the right time. This was Brahim stealing a ball, again, pressing effectively, stealing the ball, and then Vini being exactly where he needs to be to finish. I thought, like I say, this was a much, much better performance. Sadly eclipsed by the injury picture, but I think it just looked like a team that was hungry, a team that wanted to win, a team that was aggressive, when everybody was kind of running collectively and much more synchronized. It was just a much better performance. In terms of individual players, let me give you my thoughts. Look, I thought Lunin was fantastic. I think he played a perfect game. He was there. The saves were there when we needed him. He was quite commanding in the air. And he even participated, like I say, in one of the most beautiful goalkeeper assists, I think I've ever seen. It was extraordinary. Lucas Vázquez, was playing okay, but, of course, got injured towards the tail end of the first half. He's going to be out for a month. This poses a massive problem. We are down to 0 right backs. We're we're down to 0 right backs, and Fede. We're going to talk about Fede, but I mean, he better get used to that position. I know he doesn't like it, but you better get used to it because we don't have any more right backs. Fran, I thought, had a so-so game. I thought he was a little bit less incisive in attack. He usually participates more effectively going forward. I thought he was sort of okay. Rudiger, I think, had a solid match. He was pulled down in the box 2 or 3 times. I don't know why the refs or the VAR don't bother to look at this, because I mean he was basically tackled. These were rugby tackles, every single corner kick. But I think Rudiger had a very, very good game. Militao, I think, was playing pretty well up until the injury. Again, this is an absolute disaster for us, but I think he had been playing quite well. Fede, I noticed Fede felt a little bit tired to me. He felt a little bit tired. He was obviously not happy about having to play right back in the second half. Just the kind of expression on his face. It's not a position I think he enjoys, but like I say, he's going to have to get used to it because we are running out of options. Jude, we need to mention Jude. I think Jude had an absolutely excellent match. He participated a lot more in attack, which was something that was missing in prior matches. He was connecting very well, connecting the lines very well, helping in recovery, but also transitioning into attack. And you could just, I felt he connected the lines very well. And you could tell after he scored the goal, there was just such a sense of relief. I mean, you could see it on his face because, these players are under enormous pressure. And I think Jude is very, very conscious of the fact that he hasn't scored much at all this season. So I think there was a huge sense of relief. And yeah, I hope, it'll sort of turn things around for Jude and hope that we can see him participate in attack a lot more than he has. Camavinga, I thought, had an absolutely spectacular match. I've said this before on the channel. I think Camavinga is a better pivot than Tchouaméni. He's much more dynamic. I mean, yesterday there was such a noticeable difference. He's so much more dynamic. He's quicker. He steals balls more effectively. I think he defends more aggressively. I found Tchouaméni a lot more static. I think Camavinga had an almost perfect match, and his presence was very, very noticeable. Rodrigo, I think, was playing okay. I mean, a little bit unlucky in terms of the one-on-ones. It wasn't really working out, but I think he was trying. And of course, unfortunately, he's injured and will be out for, we think, maybe about a month or so. But we'll keep our eye on that. We need to talk about Kylian because, we've obviously all been critical of kind of the displacement that Kylian's presence creates in terms of the style of play and other players. But I think we have to be fair. I mean, he did not have his game for sure. He was very unfortunate. There was always one dribble too many. There was always, he attempted a couple of things that I think was just foolish. I mean, picking up the ball in the midfield and trying to run through sort of 5 defenders. He lost the ball on a couple of occasions where he had better options. But he is trying. He is really trying, especially offensively. And I think, to be fair to him, his quality is undeniable. I mean, the speed that Mbappé has is extraordinary. His dribbling is incredible. And yes, last night, it was one dribble too many and things, were a little bit unlucky, that last dribble, that last pass. But the quality is there. And I am still hopeful that we will find a way of incorporating Kylian and getting the best out of him. Like I say, the quality is unquestionably there. He just had a really off game. Vini. Look, this was a giant... Look, the match against Borussia with those incredible goals and the hat-trick again last night with these amazing goals. This was a massive, massive fuck you to France Football and to all of the journalists that had the lack of shame to deliberately hamper this award, because if you don't think Vini is the best player in the world, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. He proved once again he is the most decisive player in the world. He's absolutely electric. And by the way, there were some moments when he was actually playing on the right, and he was amazing. On the right, he was going through players, putting in dangerous passes. He's proven to be such an absolutely extraordinary player. But again, this was a giant message to France Football. You guys screwed up, and everybody knows it. Enric and Arda, we can't really judge them too much because they only played about 13, 14 minutes, so not too much. So I can't really judge them. I was glad to see them come on. They could have possibly come on a little bit earlier, to be frank. But I thought their contribution was positive, although they didn't have enough time to really shine. Asensio was, of course, the very positive surprise in this match. A young kid we knew very, very little about, but he looks like he certainly has the composure to play in these situations. So that was absolutely fantastic to see. Luka Modric, played a decent second half. Not really tremendously decisive or particularly visible, but I think he played well. So again, I think that this was more than any tactical change. This was the 4-3-3. But more than that, I think it's just the intensity of the group that I think made the difference. And that's something easy to correct, because if things aren't working tactically, you can ramp up your level of intensity and your work rate, and that will always help. And I think that was the case. Okay, we need to talk about the injury situation. Militao is going to be out for probably a year. I mean, 6 to 12 months. This was... Again, all of this goes back to the very, very poor planning. You cannot start a season with only 2 center backs, and look at the position we're in now. By the way, in medical circles, they say that it's quite common that if you have an injury to one knee, that the chances of that same injury happening in the other knee are extremely high. They're sort of exponentially higher than a player under normal circumstances. So if this is something that the medical team was aware of, which I'm sure they were, how could you not reinforce the center back position? And by the way, the Lenny Yoro situation was ridiculous. I mean, Man U took him away for another 20 or 30 million euros, which in the grand scheme of things is nothing. Okay, this is a club that has 1.1 billion euros of revenues. You need to spend 20 or 30 on getting a decent center back. And I know that, Lenny got injured, in Manchester, and, it's impossible to know whether that would have happened here. But if we really needed a center back, which we did, we should have pushed harder for him or come up with another solution. We could have brought Hummels. There was some discussion of that. Sergio Ramos was a free agent. There were possibilities and there were options, but the club completely ignored them. And look at this position we're in now. I mean, we have zero. I mean, we are going down to the wire with 0 right backs. We don't have a right back, and we have 1 center back. And now we're going to have to plug those holes. So what is the point of bringing Kylian Mbappé and Enric and Arda Güler, all this firepower up front, if you don't even have a basic defensive structure that can afford and absorb 1 or 2 injuries, because they're going to happen? This was very, very poor planning. I've said it many times on this channel, and I don't want to be repetitive, but the changes that we made in the offseason were commercially driven. It was just sort of hoarding talent for the sake of talent, but there was no real planning. And it's inconceivable to me that Florentino Perez, with all his experience, and Juni Calafat and Ancelotti, with all of their knowledge and experience, that something so glaring and so obvious that we could start a season like this. And we are completely naked defensively now. We're going to have to rely on Asensio, wait for Joan Martinez to come back, try to find something in the off market. There are rumors that Laporte apparently is in play. I think Real Madrid is going to push very hard to get Laporte to come. But something has to be done in the winter transfer window, because we cannot play the rest of the season like this. Fede is going to be miserable. He's going to have to play right back for a while. When Tchouaméni comes back, you can be sure he's going to have to play center back for a while. This has really thrown a spanner in the works. And again, this is all self-inflicted due to very, very poor planning. So look, very encouraging in terms of the energy level of the squad, but very disappointing in terms of the injuries that have exposed what I think was very, very poor sporting planning going into this season. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I will keep you guys posted in the next few days. But thanks for joining me as always. And as always, Ala Madrid.